Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Hey y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everything is going well for everybody. Looks like most everybody is having nice weather. Uh, Spring has finally sprung, it would appear. And, the sun is shining and the birds is chirping. We'll see how long that lasts. Before I say anything else, I don't know if this is going to bleed through my microphone or not, but my next door neighbors, about maybe 15 feet away from where I sit right now in my shop, are building a deck. So they have music I'm not into playing, and they've got hammers and saws and stuff going. I don't know if it's going to bleed through my mic or not, but you don't know how weird it was to sit here and listen to that music with hammers going out of tempo. It was just kind of weird. So we'll muddle through, we'll figure it out, whether you guys can hear it or not. Yeah. Well, let's see. Today I was forced to do another live Q&A simply because the video I'm trying to get out, that I've been trying to get out for 2 weeks, I keep coming across problems and omissions on my side. It's not problems with the processes. It's just I keep forgetting stuff and I keep misspeaking, and it's just easier to re-record than it is to try to fix what I've already recorded. So third time's the charm. Then again, 3 strikes, you're out. Ask my members about spoons. So the third time, I'm either going to get it right or I'm just going to scrap it and move on to the next topic. We'll see what happens. Your guess will be as good as mine. Okay. Before we get going, though, on your questions, and if you have any questions at all, please feel free to put them over here in the chat. But before we get into your questions, I want to say hello to my friend Steve over at Harniel Media and give him a shout out. Number one, because he's a friend, and number two, because he also sponsors my website, marklindsaycnc.com. Has been for, well, since its inception, really. And if you're even toying with the idea of maybe starting your own website, maybe you're getting tired of paying somebody listing fees and then paying a commission if you sell something, and you're not really fond of the fact that while somebody's looking at your product, they're advertising your competition over on the other side of the page here. If you're not into that kind of stuff and you want to take charge of your own sales and your own promotion, well, there's no better way to do it than with a website. And Steve over at Harniel Media is the only person I'm ever going to recommend, simply because he's quick, he's good, and it's 100% personalized service. When you deal with Harniel Media, you're dealing with Steve, not some conglomerate somewhere, some nameless, faceless person in a call center someplace that you'll never contact again. So do yourself a favor, head over to harnielmedia.com. There's a link in every video and live stream on this channel, and it's that way for a reason. He is that good. He's very competitively priced, and once you experience the service you get from Harniel Media, you'll wonder how he does it all so cheaply. So again, do yourself a favor, head over to harnielmedia.com. There's a link in the description, and hit that contact us button and let Steve know what you want to do, and he'll work with you, believe me. So thank you very much, Steve, for everything you do for me, for all of your customers and clients. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. So, well, we've got Roger the Tinker. What's wrong, Mark? You got old man's memory. No, there ain't no getting about it, Roger. I can't remember what I had for dinner last night. So, it's one of those things. But this too shall pass, much like everything I'm trying to remember. Okay. Again, if you have any questions at all, by all means, feel free to put them over here in the chat. I'll mark them and save them, and we'll get to them as things progress here. I do have one question up front from Butch Miller, one of my channel members and all around good egg. He asked, could you discuss toolpath grouping? And certainly I can discuss toolpath grouping. Um, we'll jump over to the to Aspire, and we'll look at grouping toolpaths. As I started reading my toolpath names here. Okay, here I put up a simple little pattern. It's just a star that's going to be V carved. I've got 4 holes here for mounting, and then I've got a vector out here uh, for a profile cutout. And this is going to use various different bits. My drilling toolpath is going to use a 1/4" 2-flute bit. And my V-carve toolpath is going to use a 90-degree V bit and a 1/4" 2-flute end mill for clearance. And then my profile cutout is going to also use a 1/4" 2-flute end mill. So, and I've not used a bunch of different variables here that I would normally use if I was actually going to cut this out. Um, like separate last pass, I would do that. I would add tabs because it's going to be cutting this completely out of the material. And I may do ramps. I am going to check to make sure that I have sharp external corners checked here. That's important. Okay. I may or may not add ramps. Sometimes I do. If I do a separate last pass, I always add a smooth ramp. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. That's all of the tool paths involved in this simple pattern. Now, in grouping tool paths, you can do them in several ways. Well, there's a couple of ways. One is you can take all of the tool paths here in your toolpath list, and you can group them based on, well, the criteria can be your own, more or less. You can create a group that uses, for instance, they all use that 1/4" end mill. I've got 1, 2, 3 different tool paths that are going to use that 1/4" end mill. So what I can do is I can down here in the blank space, I can right click and I can create an empty group. So I'll create that group right there. Now, there is a check mark, meaning that this is a visible group, but there's nothing in that group yet. But I can come along and I can drag my drill toolpath into that group. And you see how it comes down here and it shows the drilling toolpath is now moved into group 1, it says. Then I can take my clearance and I can drag that in. Then I can take my profile cutout and I can drag that in. So I have taken all 3 of the tool paths that use that 1/4" end mill, and I've placed them all into this one single group. So now when I turn on the toolpath and make it visible, we can see that I have them all selected out here. Now, what this means in this context is when I go in to preview the tool paths, I'll select this name, group 1, and you know what? Let's rename it. I'm going to rename the group 0.25" end mill. There we go. I've got that selected. Now when I go to preview that selected toolpath, it's going to go through and it's going to preview every toolpath in that group. Now I can see one mistake already, and that is I've done the V-carve clearance, I've done the drilling, and I've done the profile, but I still have one more operation to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the preview because I do not want to run my profile cutout before I finish all of my operations. So I'll select the V-carve toolpath, and I'm going to use my arrows up here, and I'm going to move that to the top. So that will be the first thing done. Okay. So if I preview all toolpaths, it's going to do the V-carve bit first, then come back and do the clearance, then it's going to drill those holes, and then it's going to do my profile cutout. Now, let me also add that this grouping, like this, only affects the preview. This does not affect saving G-code. This just affects the preview. This is what I mean when I say we've got a couple of different ways of grouping toolpaths. Let me close this preview, and now I'm going to go over here to save G-code. Now, if I go with selected toolpath, and remember, highlighted over here, highlighting the name selects the toolpath. Clicking a check mark in these boxes creates, that's a visible toolpath. So selected is highlighted by the name, visible is highlighted by the checkbox. And that matters when we get up here. I can save the selected toolpaths, or I could save the visible toolpaths. So right now, I have one toolpath selected. If I select visible toolpaths, it tells me right here, there are no visible toolpaths. Okay. If I select the 1/4 inch end mill, it's going to select everything that's within that group. Okay. You do not have to group these to get all of the 1/4 inch end mill toolpaths saved to one file. You don't have to do that. You can just check them and get the same end result. So that's another way of grouping toolpaths when it's time to save G-code. If I turn that off, I can also separate out the drilling toolpath as it's going to use an upcut bit. Then, after I've saved that G-code, I can select these two as they're most likely going to use a downcut bit. Grouping is basically a way to organize within the toolpath tree how you're going to organize the toolpaths out here and how you're going to save those toolpaths when you go to save G-code. Okay. I see Ed Appleton is asking, is grouping toolpaths only in Aspire? No, it is also in VCarve Pro. I don't know if it's in VCarve Desktop. I don't have VCarve Desktop, but I know it's in VCarve Pro. Grouping toolpaths, it kind of does help you here, but it's not necessary. Where it really shines is when you have a complex project out here and you've got a list of toolpaths that's just absolutely nuts. You've got 15 or 20 different toolpaths. That's when it really comes in handy because then you can kind of organize them here. And again, you can you can create your own criteria. If you want to group them based on the bit you're going to be using for those toolpaths, you can do it. If you have a situation like the epoxy inlaid pirate that I did a couple of years back. And you're going to be breaking up the carvings based on the number of tool paths you're going to do that day, because you have to carve, then pour the epoxy, let that cure overnight, then come back the next day and carve other vectors, then pour that epoxy, let it cure overnight, etc. I did my epoxy pour over the course of 6 days. So I had 6 groups. Actually, I had 12 groups, 6 groups using the clearance bits and 6 groups using the V bits. And they were grouped by day. And that made things a lot more streamlined. I didn't have a big old long list of tool paths. I had them broken up in or organized into groups. And that helped me keep everything figured out on this side of the house. Okay. Now, Butch has a follow-up question that I missed up here. How does that differentiate from merging toolpaths? Okay, excellent, excellent question. Let me get something done here. To take something out of a group, it's simply drag and drop. So I can select the drilling tool path and move it up here above vcarve 1, and it's no longer in that group. Then I can, let's see, vcarve clear, and then I'll take out profile cutout. Then I have an empty group. And so I'll select it, right click, and delete this empty group. So now I have them back in an order that this is an order that I would use. I've got drill as number 1. It uses an upcut bit. Oh, here we go. F. Cupo says grouping is possible in the desktop version. Okay, thank you very much. I don't have vcarve desktop, so I couldn't comment either way. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. So then I would swap out my upcut bit. Then I would put in my 90-degree V bit, and I would carve the 90-degree V bit portion. I almost always do the V bit first if I'm carving with a clearance bit. Almost always. This is especially important if your carving is going to leave thin pieces out here. You'll find you get a lot less chip out if you do the V carving first, then come back and do the clearance. Okay? So I always do the V carve first. Then I'll come back and do the clearance. Then I'll come back and do the profile cutout. What merging toolpaths does is it actually takes, let's go ahead and use vcarve clearance and profile cutout. Then I'll right click and it's not here. Oh, I can group the visible. That's fine. No, I'm going to merge these toolpaths and it's up here. There it is. Create a merged toolpath. What it's going to do, it's going to take the 2 that I have selected. Okay. vcarve clearance on top. That's important. And then profile cutout. Select one or more ordering approaches to try. If more than one option is chosen, the option that results in the shortest rapid move join-ups will be used. So I can order these to go left to right, top to bottom, or the shortest path, or in a grid, or merge by part. Let's try shortest path, because we see all of these red lines out here. These are rapid moves. Okay. This is a rapid move is a move where the bit is not down in the material, it's moving over the surface. So if I merge them using the shortest path, it's going to try to reduce the number of rapids going from one to another. Now, that's not really going to help a whole lot in this case because one's in the middle and one's way out on the perimeter. There is going to be a long uh, uh, rapid move. But merging them will take the two of these tool paths, figure out the shortest method to get both done, and then combine them into one tool path. So I'll name it V carve clear and cutout. That's going to be the name of this tool path. And I'll merge tool paths. And I now have one tool path here that's going to do both of these at the same time. So let me reset my preview. And I'll uncheck that. I'm just going to select the title and preview selected toolpath. So now instead of two toolpaths to do this, I have one. Now, yes, absolutely. Merging does require they be the same tool. It does require they be the same tool. Okay. So basically what it's done is it's taken these two tool paths, combined them into one, but it's more than just taking one tool path and adding the next one to the bottom. It's going to go through and figure out, let me go ahead and add the drill to that merge. Let's see here. I can ungroup, and that brought my V-carve clear and profile cutout back out of that merge. So if I select profile cutout, V-carve clear, and drill, that means I have to use the same upcut spiral for all of this because you do not drill with a downcut spiral. I close the preview. We'll go into merge toolpaths, and it's going to merge them in this order, but it's also going to take the shortest path to get it done. So I merged these tool paths, and what it did was it combined those tool paths to one G-code file. But again, it didn't just take the drill tool path, then add the V-carve clearance, then add the profile cutout. That can be done when saving G-code. And Brooks is asking, when merging tool paths, will the feeds and speeds be respected? Yes, it will. But again, they do have to be the same tool. It will respect feeds and speeds. So it may come over here and do this, then jump up and do the drilling. It may clean this out, jump over and do a drill, then come back down and get down here. When it gets over here, jump over and drill. It's not in this case, but you get my point. It combines them all. It doesn't just do one after the other. Okay. Another thing that it does is if you've ever, let me close this, take that off. And well, they're merged. They're no longer separate. So I can't select them. If you have ever selected the visible toolpaths to one file, and and then run it on the machine, you'll know that it, like for instance, it will do the drill, then lift up, then there's a pause, then it shoots over to it starts the next G code, and then finishes that, then there's a pause, then it'll come over and do the next G code file. This doesn't do that. It moves smoothly from one to the next. This merging tool paths comes in handy when you have, again, a lot of tool paths that that use the same tool, and rather than cutting over here for a little while, then moving over there and cutting for a little while, and then coming back up here and cutting for a little while, it'll take care of everything up here, then move over, take care of everything there, then move over, move there. Depending upon how you order them. It can move left to right, top to bottom. You can have the shortest path, or you can use a grid. Okay. So when merging tool paths, it does help, especially if you're in production work. But it's just one more tool you can add to your arsenal. Now, Rich Bratcher says, usually I prefer to set tool paths individually on long carves in case I want to shut down for the night. I do the same. Generally speaking, I like to be the one in control of when I'm going to cut what, because I may get a late start and get these done, then decide it's time for lunch, go in the house, have a sandwich, watch a YouTube video, then come out and do my V-carve. I'm the same way. But if we look at this real quick, we can see that these tool paths are going to take 2 minutes and 24 seconds. I can probably get away with cutting that and then going into lunch. Okay. So, but other than that, I'm with you 100%, Rich. I like to be in control over when a tool path is run. I want to make that decision. I don't want to have a big old line of tool paths in one file. I know there are ways I can stop it and then restart, but I'm one of the old school folks who doesn't want to I don't want to leave it unattended. Too many bad things can happen when you leave a machine unattended, you know? And maybe I err on the side of caution, but that's just me. I'm old school like that, you know? So, anyway, that's the difference. Grouping tool paths keeps each tool path separate so that it can be previewed one at a time or machined one at a time. Merging tool paths combines it all into one long tool path and uh, adjusts and merges all of the G code. So if it's working over here, it's going to drill a hole over here, then V-carve over here, and then slowly make its way around. Well, not slowly, just that depends on your feed speeds and rapid movements. So let's see here. Madra Ellen says, I merge when I have a quick cut, but I usually make individual tool paths. Yeah. If it's going to be something that takes 10, 15 minutes, boom, merge them, get them done, cut it all at once, and then be done with it. Ellen says, there are times I need to modify, and if it's grouped, it makes it frustrating. Well, again, Ellen, all you have to do is move that, just drag. Oh, no, wait a minute. Click here. This is a merge toolpath, so this is different. You have to ungroup. If they're in a, let's see, boom, boom, boom. If they're in a group, group the visible. Okay. If they're in a group, to take it out, if you need to modify it, let's say profile cutout. I'm going to drag it out here. Now I'm going to go into it and I'm going to do a separate last pass with an allowance of 0.1. I'm going to add tabs. I'll make them 3D tabs, edit them, and I want one here, one there, one there, one there. Okay, that looks good. And then I want to add a smooth ramp over a distance of, see, it's a 1/4 inch end mill, over a distance of 1 inch. And calculate the toolpath. So I've recalculated the toolpath. I've added tabs. Now I can drag it right back into that group. So you can drag and drop out of a group. But if you have merged the toolpaths, you have to ungroup all the toolpaths, then merge them again. Okay? So, bump, take that off, click off to get rid of all of that. So, yeah, you are always in control. Merge toolpath, it's a little bit of a pain. You got to ungroup and then regroup and all that other good stuff. So, now Rich Bratcher says, is hitting the pause button during a toolpath, shutting off dust collection and router and leaving the CNC on, then start again in the morning and okay practice? I mean, yeah, it's okay. Um, I don't like to do that, basically because you got a machine sitting here energized. The motors have power running to them that locks them, which builds up heat and burns electricity. I prefer to separate out my tool paths into manageable chunks. And that's where creating these known work positions, my G55, 56, 57, that's where those come into hand. Those come into play because I can run a bit of G code until that ends, stop it, shut everything down, and then leave the material mounted, go in the house, have dinner, spend the evening watching some TV or YouTube or whatever, come out the next morning and pick up where I left off. There's nothing really wrong with doing it the way you do it. See here, lately I've been hitting the pause button between tool paths to shut down for the day. I turn off dust collection and router, leave the machine overnight. Is this advisable? I mean, I don't do it. I don't like to do it. I think I've done it once, but that was before I figured out the work coordinate system. Again, G55, 56, what have you. Now, also, if you're leaving the material mounted and you have a good, reliable way of setting your X, Y, 0 when you come fire up the next day, like a 3-way touch plate or something of that, something like that, then shutting down completely overnight, that is the preferred way. What I'll do, and again, my setup was for Mach 4. Okay. I'm getting it set up in Centroid Acorn, but I don't think anybody out there uses Centroid Acorn. So, what can I say? But the thing about it is the ability to get a good repeatable XY0 is really imperative here. If you prefer to set your XY0 from the center, and I have a couple of toolpaths that I use that do that, that has its place. For me, let me switch cameras. I think it's visible. Yeah, let me switch cameras. For me, using those, there it is. Okay. For me, using my G55 and G56 offset, it's a couple of pins, as I've talked about before. I put in here, set one up here, move that out of the way, and now I know where that position is. I know where that bottom left corner is. Uh, the control software knows where that corner is. So when I fire up, I home my machine, then I bring it, I put it into this G55 offset, tell it to go to work XY0, and it'll come over, and that tip of that bit will be right there on that corner. So I can shut down everything at night, take this piece off, do whatever I got to do with it, bring it back the next day, put it right there, start the machine, home it, put it into G55 work offset, tell it to go to XY home, and it's going to come right there. The only thing I have to reset is my Z0. That's why I prefer that system. It's a quick, easy way of knowing exactly where your XY0 is all the time. So now, if you don't have that system set up, check with your machine manufacturer or your control software publisher and see how they do it. The different Gerbil-based controllers have different ways of doing it. I know it's possible to do with G-Sender. In fact, I've been after Garrett because he uses G-Sender. I've been after Garrett over at IDC Woodcraft to make a video on that. Now, he did make a video on applying carving a grid onto his spoil board, which is a great system. If you don't want to drill holes in your spoil board, carve a grid. And you can set, for instance, 6 inches over in X and 6 inches up in Y. You can set that as, say, G55. So now you mount a piece at that corner where those two grid lines meet, X6, Y6, mount your material down and go into G55, tell it to go to XY0, and it'll go right over to that corner. It's just I don't know how to set that up in G-Sender because I don't use G-Sender. But talk to your machine's manufacturer. There is a way to set up those work coordinate systems in most machines. And I thought it was overcomplicating things. I really did. Until I started using it, then I realized I was complicating things by not using it. So, see, Ellen says, if the toolpath is finished, then why not shut it down? Do you have proximity sensors? I do have proximity sensors. It was, it's just locating the piece after you've taken it off. Like, say, for instance, you need to pour some epoxy, then come back and put it down because you have more carvings to do. It's a way to locate it and get a perfect XY0. So, let's see. Okay, and Rich is talking about, no, the tool path is not finished when I leave it on. That in that case, Butch, that's why I generally tend to one of two things. Well, I do both actually. I make sure I have enough time to complete a tool path before I even start it, or I keep my tool paths separate into manageable chunks because again, if I out here, I got a 5-hour project, I make sure that I have 5 hours to be out here. Okay. Um, if it's a total of a 7-hour carve, if I can, maybe I'll do that first 2 hours, then go in the house, have lunch, come back out and finish the last 5 hours. I try to break it into manageable chunks. Now, won't be able to get into it tomorrow, Rich, but red alert, Brooks, I'll be coming your way. There is a way you can break up long G code files into more manageable chunks, and it's called tape splitting, but it involves modifying a post processor. Won't be able to do it tomorrow, but I may talk to Brooks a little bit. His internet connection is too slow to join me. Sorry, Brooks, but I can get a little bit more inside information on tape splitting. So let's see here. And that what that'll do is that'll break up G code into smaller pieces. So you've got a 4-hour carve, 5-hour carve, and you can't span 5 hours. You can put this into run it through a different post processor. It'll take one tool path and split it up into 2 or 3 files. So you're not sitting there doing it all at once. So yeah, Rich says, I'm all in, maybe. Yeah, me too. I haven't done it yet either. But from what I understand, Brooks is the man. We'll get into it though. Okay, Sargon says, my machine always saves the last XYZ when I shut down normal. Yeah, not all of them. Not all of them will do that. Some of them do. If you've ever used Mach 3, when you go to shut down Mach 3, it'll ask you, save this fixture. And I used to always click no. You can click yes, and it'll save. Come on, there we go. It'll save that location, but now you have to make sure you get that piece of material back in that location. So, that's the problem. So, Butch says that sounds like the perfect opportunity to screw up many things unintentionally, and it could. It could. But that's why I constantly say practice, practice, practice in scrap. Test it out in scrap. And what I mean by that is, I think probably the easiest way I've ever had of obtaining scrap is I go on my local Craigslist and I get into the free section. And I start looking at what people are wanting to get rid of. And you'll find old fence boards, you'll find old cabinet doors, you'll find old particle board furniture that's getting ready to go into the dump. Maybe it's broken, maybe it isn't, but folks just want it out of there. I have no philosophical issue with taking something that was going to the landfill anyway, cutting it apart, and then using it to practice techniques on the CNC. It was going to go in the trash anyway. So let me cut it up a little bit first. Maybe make something that's worth saving out of it. But, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And you'd be amazed at the number of things people are throwing away. I mean, I picked up, what was it? It was 16 solid cherry cabinet doors and another 10 drawer fronts. A guy had refaced his kitchen cabinets, and he knew that they're solid cherry. Put them in the hands of somebody who will use them, and I did. So, in fact, I think I still have one left. But it's a good way to get materials for next to nothing. The only thing it costs you is the time to go get it. Rich says, I love getting the older wood TV trays. Absolutely. Absolutely. My daughter has a set of those. And I've tried a couple of times to get her to let me have them, and I'll carve some neat stuff in the top. She's kind of like, "Yeah, but we use them every night. I can't afford to give them away." Okay, fine. So, but yeah, that perfect opportunity to customize. So you've got one for mom, one for dad, and then guests or a junior and juniorette or whatever. So yeah, Butch says I got some redwood that way. Yeah, exactly. Uh, if you can see the stacks way on the back of the CNC router, those are blanks, turning blanks for practicing on the rotary axis. They're I ripped 2x4s in half, and I got those 2x4s off the free section of Craigslist. It's a good resource. Just picking up people's garage sale leftovers and stuff that they're going to have to haul to the landfill. And you never know what you're going to find. So, let's see here. We've got a couple of more questions. Okay, Pete over at Nature's Live Edge says, I think you can modify it while it's in the group. Well, let's look. While it's in the group, let's look. And let's see, profile cutout that's in the group. I'll remove the tabs and recalculate. Okay, yes, you can modify while it's in a group. I don't know that you can modify it while it's after it's been merged. So let's see. Let's go ahead and boom, boom, boom. And we'll drag these out of there. Nope, got to do one at a time. Okay. And then we'll get rid of, delete this. All right. We'll get rid of the group. Now let's go ahead and merge those tool paths. And I'm gonna take that off. We'll go left to right, bottom to top. And we're not going to do that. And we'll just merge them. Okay, that's fine. The resulting merge toolpath will not necessarily preserve the current toolpath order or the cutting order within an existing toolpath. Okay. All right. So it's changed that part. Now let's see if I can go into profile cutout and change it. Now I will add tabs, and they're there where I put them. Close and calculate. And yes, they're still within the merge toolpath. So yes, you can do that. All right. Thank you, Pete. I was taught that you had to take it out of the merge toolpath in order to modify it. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Now let's see here. Jack Painter says, is there a place to have the spindle start and stop in the program, or do I have to edit the file and enter the G code? Is there a place to have the spindle start and stop in the program? Or do I have to edit the file and enter the G code? Are you talking about, for lack of a better term, are you talking about a parking spot? Like if you're finished, let's bring this back over here. You're finished with this and you want the spindle to come up here and then stop to go through it shut down. There is a way to do that. Generally speaking, with in the G code. Okay. You can change the home position. All right. And what the home position is down here, here's your home start position. When the toolpath starts, when you hit cycle start or run or whatever on your controller, No matter where your spindle is, the first thing your CNC is going to do is move to that home position. In my case, it's X0, Y0, 0.26 above the material. Okay, the bit's going to be 0.26 of an inch above the material. Then it's going to start running the G code. When the G code is finished running, it's going to move back to this home position. It's going to come back to X0, Y0, 0.26 above. Now, if you don't want it here, you can make this anywhere you want it. But remember that when the toolpath starts and the toolpath stops, that's where the bit is going to go. Okay, so you can set it up. Let's see, this is a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of material. For this, I can say X6 and Y 13. Okay, with a gap, let's go 3.0. That's a good parking spot. That's 6 inches over, so like the center here in X, and 13 inches, so about an inch beyond the material, and then 3 inches above the surface of the material, because that's where I set my XYZ0. That's a good parking space where you can do a bit change. Okay. Now, the only problem is, no matter where your spindle is, when you start that G code, that's where it's going to go. Then your spindle will ramp up, your dust collection will ramp up, and when it's ready to go to the first line, it'll start from here. Now it's going to go and start carving. When it's finished, it's going to lift up to 3 inches above the material surface, then move back to that location. That may be what you want it to do on this project. But the next project, you're going to need to come in here and change this unless this is exactly where you want it to start from and end. Okay, I've reset my material values. Now I got to recalculate the tool path. All tool paths are recalculated, and now there we see. There's the home position. I thought I had my XY0 set here, so I thought it was going to come over here 6 inches. I forgot my XY0 is here in the center, so it's 6 inches over this way. Okay, so you see way over here, that's where that home position is. That's where it's going to start, and that's where it's going to stop. If that works for you, then terrific. Excuse me. If that's not for you, then you might want to change it. The only thing I would caution you on is if you're going to use this system, and again, that's right here in Material Setup, click the Set button and come down here, the Home Start position. Okay. The only thing that I would caution you is be very careful, because if you use clamps especially, or you have this mounted in a fixture, because when it's finished doing its thing and it's time to go home, it's going to go straight home. It doesn't care if you've put a clamp there. It doesn't care if there's something in the way. It's going to go straight home. Now I know, let's cancel that. There are keep out zones. One of the issues is when it goes to that home position, it ignores those keep out zones. Those keep out zones are only valid while the bit is out here carving. When it's done carving, it'll go right through that keep out zone to get back to home position. A lot of people don't like that, with good reason, because if there's a clamp or you've got, a fixture with toggle clamps there holding down your material, and it goes right through one of those clamps, it's going to go right through one of those clamps. So you've got to be careful. Okay. This is one of those situations where you can, let's shut that off, come back in here. And let me see if I don't think I have a piece of G code on this computer. Let me remove that. And I apologize for the silence you're fixing to have while I look for a piece of G code. Come on. Open up the folder. There we go. Let me see. Do I have any G code here? No, none there. I need to get me a piece of test G code. Is that one? Yes. Okay. So, all right. Here we go. This is a G code file for those of you who don't know what G code looks like. Okay. You can come down here to the bottom. I know just enough G code to be dangerous. Okay. What we have down here is that's returning to the home position. Okay. G00, which is a rapid move, Z.25. That's going to lift my Z.25 above the material where my Z0 is. Then this right here, that's a move to that home location. X0, Y0. Then M5 turns off my spindle. M9 turns off my dust collector. M30, the end of the G code, and then return to the top. What you can do is you can get into this G code file, and let's say you want your G, you want your X, you want it to move over to 6 inches. So I can go 6.0. And in Y, I want it to go back 15 inches. I can go Y 15. Then I can save that G code. And now that's a part of my G code. It's going to start at X0, Y0. It's going to start in that home position. But now it's going to end at that position. Again, make sure you've got nothing between the last cut and this home position, because it's going to go through no matter what's there. If there's a clamp in the way, if there's a fixture in the way, it's going right through it and it doesn't care. Okay. This is a thing no matter who modifies the G code. If you modify the G code, your post processor modifies the G code, or anything else. If there is an issue, it's going, if there's something in the way, it's going through it. Okay. About the only way you can prevent that from happening is set your Z0 so that it goes all the way to the top of its travel. Then start moving back. Okay. So, and that's going to vary. I don't know the top of your travel. So, all right, let me go ahead and close that down. So you can modify it. And another thing, let me also say, there are some controllers out there where you have a specific park location. Okay, I know in Centroid I can set a park location. I haven't done it yet, but when it's finished running G code, or when it's time to do a tool change, it will go to a specific position over my table and stop and wait for me to either shut down or do a tool change or what have you. But it'll go to that position, shut off the spindle, And then 10 seconds after the spindle shuts off, it shuts off the dust collector. Okay. Your machine may be capable of doing that. Your controller may be capable of doing that. I don't know. I know there was a way to do it in Centroid. I think there was a way to do it in Mach 4. I'm not certain, but I don't know how to do it. And there was one screen set that I know of in Mach 3 that did have a park location. So, okay, let's see here. Brooks Martin says, with my post processor, the last thing my G code raises a spindle and turns off the spindle. It doesn't go to X home, Y home. Okay. Yeah. You can do that. And how you would do that is, let me reopen that G code. You would come down here to the very end and you would eliminate that line entirely. Okay. Backspace, file, save. Now, after that is finished, wherever that bit is over your material, it's just going to lift up a 1/4 inch above the surface of the material in this case, and it's not going to move. It'll just stop. And it doesn't have to be a 1/4 of an inch. You can have it go to, I don't know why it's here twice. I'm not going to mess with it because it works. You can have it go to, nah, I'm not going to mess with that. You could have it lift up by itself. You could set that height to wherever you want. Or you could make sure that in your material setup, it goes up to a high Z gap. The only problem with playing with this Z gap here is when I've got a Z gap of 3 inches. Cancel. That means when it goes to run this path, when it lifts up, it's going to lift up to 3 inches. So everywhere you see a red line here, when it comes out of the material to move, it's going to come up 3 inches. Then move, then come back down that 3 inches, and then go to the correct cutting depth. So this isn't just for the home position. Okay. No, take that back. That is just the home position. Forget that. That's Z1. Forget that. Never mind. Forget I said any of that. Never mind. This is just the home start position. Your Z1 clearance is going to be up here. Never mind. Forget it. Do my Rosanna, no, what was it? Not Rosanna, Rosanna Dana? I don't remember. Never mind. That's how old I am. All right. Let's see. Ellen says I set mine to 0.08 unless I have very thick material. Yeah. I set mine at about a 1/4 of an inch. That's enough to sling off any chips that might be stuck to the bit, and it's a safe move across my material. So let's see here. I have not used keep out zones. I just have to be aware of where my clamps are. Yeah, and again, that is a good case for removing that line of G code that tells it to make a rapid move to go back to the home position, because wherever that last cut was, it's going to stop right there and just lift up and then shut down. So, you know. Yeah, Rosanna Dana. Thank you, Rich. You're old like me. All right. It's always something. Okay. Let's see. Ed says, I know with GSender you can put G code for various functions, such as pausing, resuming, for example. To resume, I can have the spindle start and pause before proceeding. Yeah. Yes, you can. And that pause is called a dwell. But yeah. Oh, my better half, Linda says, several of her spinning wheels came out of the dump pile. Yes, they did. They were, take this or I'm going to throw it away. Okay. All right. Let's see. Um, Dwayne says, I would think you could split the G code into two files and copy the header and footer lines to the appropriate file and run them sequentially, provided you home between files. Yeah, you could. That is getting into G code editing. I just showed a little bit of G code editing. I don't like to do that because, as has been mentioned before, that's a good way to mess things up real quick, not knowing that. If you get experienced at editing G code, then by all means, certainly. But using tape splitting, like Brooks does, using tape splitting, you are able to control how big the file is. And it will take that long G code, say it's a 12-hour 3D carve, and it'll break it up into separate G code files so that you could run one, say, for 3 hours, and then that's the end of that G code file. Then come back the next day, for instance, load the next file and pick up where you left off. It just splits that one long G code file into separate files with their own headers, with their own footers, with everything. So tape splitting goes back to the old days where they actually use perforated tape to control the CNC, perforated paper tape. And you could split that file into separate G code files instead of having one long, 100,000 lines. I want to say his name was Kim Mortensen. He's over in Europe, and he was talking about the longest G code file he ever ran was, I think, like something like 24 million lines of code, and it was a 50-hour cut, and they split it up over the course of several days. So tape splitting. I don't know what they were carving. It was a 3D carve. I don't know what it was, but over a 50-hour carve, it's above my pay grade. Let's see here. I have a question. I want to make a symbol larger than my CNC's work area. I'm trying to split it into two parts. How can I create a reference point to align them perfectly when assembling? Okay, are you making this? Let me ask you a question, Raul. Are you making this out of one piece, or are you going to be say, for instance, taking 1 foot square pieces and carve on this one, take it off, put down the next piece, carve on that one, then assemble them later? Because what you're talking about doing is you're talking about toolpath tiling. Okay. I believe it's 2 videos on toolpath tiling. Okay. 2 separate pieces. Okay. Uh, yes, you're talking about toolpath tiling. Um, Mine was slightly different in that I used what they call pass-through tiling, meaning I had one piece that was too long. So I carved one section first, then moved it, then carved the other section next. I don't know that my video would help you on that. I'll go ahead and I'll link them. Tiling, and I just wrote myself a note as soon as we're finished here live. I will link both of those videos. I believe it was 2 videos down in the description of this live stream. So check them out. But it'll help you out as far as how to set up the toolpath, what an overlap is, whether you need to overlap or not. And if anybody out there knows of a good source, a good video for Raul, get a hold of me, let me know. And I will also put that down in the description when we're done. You can't post links. Steve can, because he's my moderator. Let's see here. And there's number 2. So it is 2 videos. I will link both of those. But if anybody knows of a good source where they did just that, they took 2 pieces, 2 separate pieces, and carved them, then put them together after the fact, please let me know. And I will list that also down in the description. Now, no guarantees, Raul. I'm hoping that this helps you out. But you've just given me another idea for another video that I'm sure I can mess up. Yes, I have 2 pieces over there. I'm going to add that to my video list to do. Tiling 2 pieces. All right. I don't need anything, but I'll do one. What the heck? All right. So yeah, after we're done here, give me about 10 minutes maybe. And then as soon as I'm finished, or you can use the links that Steve has already put out there in the chat. I will put those links down in the description of this video. Toolpath tiling is a little bit nerve-wracking at first until you actually see it work. Then it's like, oh man, what was I afraid of? It's kind of like two-sided machining in the, it's more or less the same. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I don't know if any of the noise from next door has telegraphed through. If it has, I do apologize. If it hasn't, I haven't seen anything in the comments yet, then safe. Couldn't you split the design into 2 pieces and just highlight the first part, do 2 caliber? Yeah, that's called tiling, John. It's called dialing. So what it does, John, what toolpath tiling does is it takes one design and it splits it into sections. Then this first tile will carve this section, then the next tile will carve this section. It does all that math for you, so you don't have to. So yeah, it's something I do need to do anyway, just for giggles. Okay, let's see. I think that's going to go ahead and wrap it up today. Channel members tomorrow. Oh man. Oh man. Tomorrow, Jim Brown is going to be our guest. And I've been wanting to get Jim Brown on for a while. For those of you who don't know, Jim Brown is the gentleman who does these kind of beautiful projects where he layers 3 or 4 different species of wood. In this case, this is cedar and then bloodwood and then black limba, and then does 3D carvings through them to make some of these absolutely gorgeous pieces. Jim is going to be our guest, and he's going to get into how he got into this, how he does it, how he designs it, and how he figures out how deep to make these tool paths cut in order to get this stunning effect. So that's tomorrow at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. The link, go over to the community/membership tab, and you'll find the link to that live stream there. This is for members only. I know, but One of the advantages of being a channel member. And so if you don't know what I'm talking about, or if you want some information on how to become a channel member to be a part of cool stuff like this, special guests, whole lot of different cool techniques, just click that join button down there below this video panel somewhere. Another panel is going to pop up and a video is going to play that'll tell you all about channel membership. We've got a great community of folks, some of the best people I've ever had the fortune, the blessing of meeting, and we'd love to have you as a part of it. So for everyone else, I'm going to try like crazy to get this video done. Again, 3 times the charm, but 3 strikes and you're out. We'll see what happens. I'm going to try to have it up next week. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday with me. I truly appreciate it. And for those of you who have a nice day, it's time to fire up the barbecue, man. Let's get it going. Let's get it going. We've waited too long for this. That's what I'm going to do. So go make some chips. Go burn some chips on the barbecue. But either way, y'all take care. Thank you very much.